Hello and welcome to Chapter 11, Properties of the Hair and Scalp. Please open your textbook to page 224. And let's begin to learn how to identify and distinguish the different structures of the hair and root. Moving down to discover the structure of the hair. Please highlight. The scientific study of the hair and its diseases are called trichology, which comes from the Greek word trios, hair, and the study of ology, and a highlighting. The hair, skin, and nails and glands are part of the system. Although we no longer need hair for warmth and protection, hair still has an enormous impact on our psychology. Please highlight. A mature strand of human hair is divided into two parts, the hair root and the hair shaft. Continue highlighting. The hair root is part of the hair located below the surface of the epidermis, the outer layer of your skin. Please continue highlighting. The hair shaft is the portion of the hair that projects above your epidermis, or your top layer of your skin, and a highlighting. You can see this on figure 11-1, where the hair root actually projects out of the skin or the epidermis. That is on page 225. Let's talk about the structure of the hair root. The five main structures of the hair root include the hair follicle, hair bulb, dermal papilla, erecti papilla muscle, and also your sebaceous oil glands. Please highlight. The hair follicle is a tube-like depression or pocket in the skin or scalp that contains the hair root, and a highlighting. Hair follicles are distributed all over the body, with exceptions on the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. The follicle extends downward from the epidermis into the dermis, the inner layer of skin, where it surrounds the dermal papilla. Sometimes, more than one hair will grow from one single follicle. The hair bulb, please highlight. The hair bulb is the lowest part of the hair strand. It is thickened, club-shaped structure that forms at the lower part of the hair root. You can actually see it right now on figure 11-1. It's the black portion, and it's that thick bulb on the bottom there. Your dermal papilla, please highlight. Your dermal papilla, plural dermal papillae, is a small cone-shaped elevation located at the base of the hair follicle that fits into the hair bulb. End of highlighting. The dermal papilla contains the blood and nerve supply that provides nutrition needed for hair growth. Some people refer to the dermal papilla as the mother of the hair because it contains blood and nerve supply that provides nutrients needed for hair growth. Your erecti pillae muscle. Please highlight. Your erecti pillae muscle is a small, involuntary muscle in the base of the hair follicle. Strong emotions or cold sensation can cause it to contract, which makes the hair stand up straight and the result of what we call now goosebumps. End of highlighting. Your sebaceous glands, please highlight, are oil glands in the skin that are connected to the hair follicles. The sebaceous glands secrete fatty or an oily substance called sebum. You need sebum because it lubricates the skin. And a highlighting. Under the section, did you know? Have you heard the expression, you are what you eat? Although a healthy diet does not always guarantee a healthy hair and scalp. It's true what you eat will affect your scalp. Please highlight. Your body can produce 11 of the 20 amino acids that make up hair, but your daily diet must include a variety of foods that supply the remaining 9 essential amino acids that the hair and scalp need, and a highlighting. That's why crash and fad dieting can cause hair loss, lackluster hair, unhealthy skin, and also scalp conditions. Moving on to page 226. Structures of the hair shaft. Your learning outcome during this point is to be able to make a difference and a point of difference among the three main layers of the hair shaft. The structures of the hair shaft. Three main layers of the hair shaft are, please highlight, the three main layers of the hair shaft are the cuticle, cortex, and medulla. You can see it on figure 11-12. Your CCMs. Please highlight, your hair cuticle is the outermost layer of the hair. It consists of a single overlapping transparent scale-like cells that look like shingles on a roof, and a highlighting. The cuticle layer provides a barrier that protects the inner structure of the hair. It lies super tightly against the cortex. It's responsible for creating shine and that smooth, silky feel on the hair. To feel the cuticle, pinch a single healthy strand of hair between your thumb and forefinger. I'd like you to try do that. Gather one piece of hair in between your fingers. Starting near the scalp, I want you to pull it upward on the strand. It should feel really sleek and smooth when you move your fingers down it. Next, hold the end of that hair strand with one hand and pinch the strand with the thumb and forefingers in your other. Move your fingers the opposite direction down the hair shaft. In this direction, the hair feels rougher because you're going against the natural growth of the cuticle layer, so essentially going against the grain. A healthy, compact cuticle layer is the hair's primary defense against damage. A lengthwise cross-section of the hair shows, although the hair's cuticle scales overlap, each individual cuticle scale is attached to the cortex. You can see in figure 11-3. These overlapping scales make up the cuticle layer. Swelling the hair by applying substances such as hair color raises up that cuticle layer and opens up the space between the scales, which allows liquids to penetrate into the cortex. A healthy hair cuticle layer protects the hair from penetration and prevents damage of the hair fibers. Oxidative hair colors, permanent waving solutions, and chemical hair relaxers must have an alkaline pH to penetrate the cuticle layer, because a high pH swells that cuticle and causes it to lift and expose to get into the cortex. Moving on to page 227. The cortex. Please highlight, the cortex is your middle layer of the hair. It's a fibrous protein core formed by elongated cells containing melanin pigment. So this is where your hair color comes from. Please continue highlighting. About 90% of the total weight of the hair comes from the cortex. I call it your brains. And a highlighting. The elasticity of the hair and its natural hair color are the result of unique protein structures within that cortex. The changes involved in oxidating hair color, wet setting like you were doing earlier this week, thermal setting, permanent waving, and chemical hair relaxing take place within the cortex. You can see it on figure 11-4. That is with the cuticle removed, that's pure cortex. Please highlight the medulla, the innermost layer of the hair, and it's composed of round cells. It's quite common for very fine hair and naturally blonde hair to actually entirely not even have a medulla, and a highlighting. Generally, only thick, coarse hair contains a medulla. For example, all male beard that contains a medulla. The medulla is not involved in any type of salon services that you offer. Moving down to learning about the chemical composition of the hair. Hair is composed of a protein that grows from cells originating with the hair follicle. Please highlight. This is where the hair begins. As soon as these living cells form, they begin their journey upward through the hair follicle. They mature in a process called keratinization. As these newly formed cells mature, they fill up with fibrous protein called keratin. After they've filled with it, the cells move upward, lose their nucleus, and then they die. This is now underneath the skin that we're talking about. By the time that hair shaft emerges from the scalp, the cells of the hair are completely keratinized and they're no longer living. The hair shaft emerges as a non-living fiber composed of a keratinized protein. Please highlight, hair is approximately 90% protein. The protein is made up of long chains of amino acids, which in turn are made up of elements. And a highlighting. The major elements that make up human hair are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur. And they are referred to as your Cohn's elements. Please highlight. These 5 elements are also found in the skin and nails. If you look to your right, you're going to see table 11-1 that's going to show the percentage of each element in the type of strand of hair. I want you to please highlight these areas. Your carbon at 51% of a normal hair, your oxygen at 21%, hydrogen at 6%, nitrogen at 17%, and your sulfur at 5%. Let's move on to page 228. Please highlight. Proteins are made up of long chains of amino acids, units that are joined together end to end pop beads. This strong chemical bond joins the amino acids is called a peptide bond, also known as your end bond. Please continue highlighting. A long chain of amino acids linked by peptide bonds is called a peptide chain. Please continue highlighting. Proteins are long coiled complexes of polypeptides made of amino acids. The spiral shape of the coiled protein is called a helix, which is created when the polypeptide chains intertwine with each other. You can see that on figure 11-15. Your side bonds of your cortex. There's 3 types of side bonds in your cortex. Right now you're going to learn about all 3. The cortex is made up of millions of polypeptide chains. Please highlight. Polypeptide chains are cross-linked like the rungs on a ladder by 3 different types of side bonds. Please star your side bonds that link the polypeptide chains together and are responsible for all your strength, elasticity of human hair, and a highlighting. They are essential to services such as wet setting, thermal styling, permanent waving, and chemical hair relaxing. The 3 types of side bonds are hydrogen, salt, and disulfide bonds. Please star and highlight. 3 types of side bonds are hydrogen, salt, and disulfide bonds. So let's learn about your hydrogen bond. Please highlight. A hydrogen bond is a weak physical cross-section of the bond, and it's easily broken by water or heat. And a highlighting. Although the individual hydrogen bonds are very weak, there's so many of them that they account for about 1/3 of the hair's overall strength. Hydrogen bonds are broken by wetting the hair with water. You can see that on figure 11-7. That allows the hair to be stretched and wrapped around with rollers. The hydrogen bond reforms when the hair dries. So when you're doing your wet setting chapter, and you're either doing your pin curls or your rollers, how the curl formation is holding and will hold for a long period of time is because of your hydrogen bonds. That's why once it's set, it has to be reset with water. Why you can comb that curl out and you can reactivate it with your fingers, because that curl formation, that memory is there until it's reset with water. That is your hydrogen bond. Now let's move on to your salt bond. Please highlight. A salt bond is also weak. It's a physical cross-link between the adjacent polypeptide chains. Salt bonds depend on pH, so they are easily broken by strong alkaline and acidic solutions, and a highlighting. Even though they're weak bonds, so many of them that they account for 1/3 of the hair's overall strength. Let's move into your disulfide bond. Now, please highlight. Your disulfide bond is a strong chemical side bond that's very different from the physical side bond of your hydrogen and salt bonds. Please continue highlighting. The disulfide bond joins the sulfur atoms of two neighboring cysteine amino acids to create one cysteine. End of highlighting. When the cysteine joins together, two polypeptide strands. Although there are far fewer disulfide bonds than there are hydrogen or salt bonds, the disulfide bonds are way stronger, and they also account for about 1/3 of the hair's overall strength. Please know, and star, disulfide bonds are not broken by water. They are broken by permanent waving solutions and chemical hair relaxers that alter the shape of the hair. End of highlighting. You can see on table 11-2 this. Moving on to page 229. Additionally, normal amounts of heat, such as heat to be used in conventional thermal setting, will never break a disulfide bonds. These bonds can be broken by extreme heat producing by boiling water and some high temperature thermal styling tools such as straightening or flattening irons. Now your thiopermanent waves break your disulfide bonds, so that is your chemical texturizers, or your what we'd call old school perming, is your thiopermanent waves. They break the disulfide bonds, and what they do is they physically reform those bonds and then complete with a thioneutralizer. Hydrogen chemical relaxers break the disulfide bonds and then convert them to lanolene bonds. When a relaxer is rinsed from the hair, the disulfide bonds then are treated with hydroxide relaxers, are broken permanently, and they can never ever be reformed. Moving on to page 230. Bonds of the hair. The bonds of the hair, I want you to star and highlight and know this table. The hydrogen bond is a side bond. The strength is weak and it's physical. It's broken by water or heat. It's reformed by drying or cooling. Your salt bond is a weak side bond. It changes in pH. That's how it's broken. And it is reformed by normalizing your potential hydrogen, your pH level. Your disulfide bond is a side bond. The strength is a strong chemical. It can be broken by thioperms, thiorelaxers, hydroxide relaxers, and also extreme heat such as boiling water. It can be reformed by oxidating with a neutralizer and converted to lanolene bonds. Lastly, your peptide, that's that M bond. It is a strong chemical. It can be broken by chemical depilatories. It can never be reformed because the hair actually will dissolve and melt away. So on page 230, let's talk about hair pigment. Hair pigment and understanding it is a huge portion of your job. All natural hair color is a result of a pigment located within the cortex. Please highlight. Melanin is tiny grains of pigment in the cortex that give natural hair color to the hair. End of highlighting. We've learned about these two types of melanin in our skin chapters. There is eumelanin and phenomelanin. Eumelanin, please highlight, provides natural dark brown to black color in the hair and is the dark pigment predominant in black and brunette hair. End of highlighting. Phenomelanin is the lighter pigment that provides the natural colors ranging from red, ginger, yellow to blonde tones. End of highlighting. Natural hair color in a person's hair is due to the presence of the mixture of these pigments. The more eumelanin will give hair a darker look, and the amount can vary from person to person and also across the person's head, so the frontal area may be different than your back two quadrants. When we look at the hair underneath the microscope, the eumelanin pigment granules are oval or elliptical in shape, and the phenomelanins are partially oval and kind of rod-shaped. Gray hair contains only a few small scattered melanin granules, and the white hair does not contain any melanin whatsoever. So now that we finished up the hair pigment, let's talk about wave patterns. Please highlight. The wave pattern of hair often refers to the shape of the hair strand. End of highlighting. It's described as straight, wavy, curly, or extremely curly. Please star that. Straight, wavy, curly, or extremely curly. You can see that on figure 11-9. Natural wave patterns are the result of, honestly, genetics. Although there's many exceptions, this is a general rule. Asians and Native Americans tend to have extremely straight hair. Caucasians tend to have straight, wavy, or curly hair. African Americans tend to have extremely curly hair. But straight, wavy, and curly hair, and then extremely curly or high-textured hair occur in all races, of any race or mixed race. They can have hair with varying degrees of curl formation, from straight to extremely curly. The wave pattern can also vary from strand to strand, and also from different sections on the person's head. It's not uncommon for an individual to have different amount of curl in different areas. Individuals with curly hair often have straighter hair in the crown and tighter curls in other areas. Straight blonde hair is round with more phenomelanin. Straight black hair is round with more eumelanin. Straight gray hair lacks melanin, period. And curly hair is in oval shape. So you can see so much of this on figure 11-10 on page 231. You can see the different shapings and the different look from the phenomelanin to the eumelanin. Moving on to page 231, there are several theories that try and explain the cause of naturally curly hair. But there's no single definite answer that explains why some hair grows straight and others grow curly. The most popular theory claims that the shape of the hair's cross-section determines the amount of the curl. This theory claims that the hair with a round cross-section is straight, with hair with an oval to a flattened oval cross-section is wavy or curly, and the hair with a flattened to flattened oval cross-section is extremely curly. You can see this on table 11-3. So if you actually do a cross section, so cut that hair, put it underneath a microscope, this is the shape of your individual hair strand. You can see your first on your table 11-3, your straight hair has that round cross section. Your wavy or curly hair is going to have an oval to round cross section. Your high-textured, extremely curly hair is going to have an elliptical cross-section. So let's move into extremely curly hair. Extremely curly hair grows in long, twisted spirals. Cross-sections appear to be flattened, like you can see on table 11-3, compared to the straighter wavy hair, which tends to possess a fairly regular and uniform diameter along the hair shaft. Extreme curly hair is fairly irregular, showing various diameters along one single strand. Some extremely curly hair has a natural tendency to form a coil like a telephone cord. Coiled hair, moving into page 232, usually has a fine texture, with many individual strands winding together to form a coiled lock. Extremely curly hair often has really low elasticity. It breaks easily and has a tendency to knot, especially on the ends. Gentle scalp manipulations, proper conditioning and shampoo, and proper detangling helps minimize the tangles. Let's move on to hair growth. What you're going to learn in this learning outcome is the ability to name and compare the differences among the 3 cycles of the hair growth. The truth about hair growth. The 2 main types of hair found on the body are vellus and terminal hair. Please star that. So let's learn about this. Your vellus hair, please highlight, also known as your langot hair, is short, fine, unpigmented, downy hair that appears to be on the body. Vellus hair almost never has a medulla. End of highlighting. It's commonly found on infants and can be present in children until puberty. On adults, vellus hair is usually found in places that are normally considered hairless. For example, your forehead, eyelids, and also a bald scalp, as well as nearly all other areas of the body, except, please star and highlight, the palms of the hands and soles of your feet. The follicles that produce vellus hair do not have sebaceous glands. Women normally retain 55% more vellus hair than men do. Vellus hair helps with the evaporation of perspiration. So if you pull up your sleeve and your arm, typically you have a lot of vellus hair there. That's that fine, soft white hair. And it's there just to make sure that it's absorbing and helping move out all your sweat. Your terminal hair, please highlight. Your terminal hair is a long, coarse, pigmented hair found on the scalp, legs, arms, and bodies of males and females. End of highlighting. Terminal hair is coarser than vellus hair and usually has, with the exception of gray, it typically is pigmented. And it usually has a medulla. Hormonal changes during puberty can cause some areas of this fine vellus hair to be replaced with your thicker terminal hair. All the follicles are capable of producing either vellus or terminal hair. Please know that, depending on genetics, age, and hormones. So how does the hair grow? Let's talk about the growth cycles in hair. Hair growth occurs in cycles. Each complete cycle has 3 phases that are repeated over and over and over again throughout life. These 3 phases are your anagen, catagen, and telogen. Your anagen phase, please highlight. During the anagen phase, also known as the growth phase, new hair is produced. End of highlighting. New cells are actively manufactured in the hair follicle. During this phase, cells are produced faster than any other normal cell in the human body. The average growth of a healthy scalp is about a half an inch or 1.25 centimeters per month. The rate of growth varies on different parts of your body, between male and female sexes, and also with age. Scalp hair grows faster on women than it does on men. Scalp hair grows rapidly between the ages of 15 and 30, but it slows down sharply after the age of 50. About 90% of the scalp is growing in the anagen phase at any time. The anagen phase generally lasts from 3 to 5 years, but in some cases it can last up to 10 years. The longer the anagen cycle, the longer the hair is able to grow. Sometimes, some people can actually grow their hair down to their shoulders, while others can grow it to the floor. No special serum is going to change this. This is really your genetics on your anagen phase of your hair. That's why some people's hair can only grow up to 3 years and then it goes into a resting phase, while others can go up to 10 years and they're able to honestly grow their hair right to the floor. So that is your anagen or your growth phase. Let's talk about your catagen phase. It's a brief transitional period between the growth and resting phases of the hair follicle. Please highlight. The catagen phase is a brief transitional period between the growth and resting period of the hair follicle. It signals the end of the anagen phase. End of highlighting. During the catagen phase, it's super short, but the follicle canals shrinks and detaches from the dermal papilla. The hair bulb disappears and is shrunken from the root and forms a rounded club. Less than 1% of the scalp is in the catagen phase at any time. The catagen phase is very short, lasting from 1 to 2 weeks. Your last phase is your telogen phase. Please highlight. Your telogen phase, also known as your resting phase, is your last final phase in the hair cycle, and it lasts until the fully grown hair is shed. The hair is either shed during the telogen phase or remains in place until the next anagen phase starts. When the new hair is growing, it pushes that old hair in the telogen phase out. A little less than 10% of the scalp is in a telogen phase at any one time. The telogen phase lasts about 3 to 6 months, and as soon as the telogen phase ends, the hair returns back to the anagen phase and begins that entire cycle again. On average, the entire growth cycle repeats itself every 4 to 5 years. So out of the telogen phase, I want you to highlight on your first paragraph of your telogen phase, last sentence, please highlight a little less than 10% of the scalp hair is in the telogen phase at any one time. And then moving into your second paragraph of your telogen phase, your last sentence, please highlight, on average, the entire growth cycle repeats itself every 4 to 5 years. Let's talk about myths and facts about hair growth. As a stylist, you're going to hear a lot of opinions about hair growth from your clients and other stylists. Here are some myths about facts on the hair growth. Myth: shaving, clipping, and cutting hair on the head makes it grow back faster, darker, and coarser. Here's the fact: cutting or shaving the hair on the head has zero effect on the growth. When the hair is blunt and cut to the same length, it grows back more evenly. That's the difference. Although it may seem to grow back faster and darker and coarser, shaving or cutting the hair on the head has zero effect on growth. Myth: scalp massage increases hair growth. Here's the fact: scalp massages are super stimulating, they feel amazing, and they help the scalp and increase blood circulation. They can relax the nerves on the scalp, tighten the scalp muscles. However, it's never been proven that any type of scalp massage will increase hair growth. There is products called minoxidil and Finstraight that are the only treatments that have been significantly proven to increase hair growth, and they're approved for strictly that purpose by the FDA. Products that claim to increase hair growth are regulated as drugs, and they're not cosmetic. Let's continue on to page 234 with more myths. Gray hair is coarser and more resistant than pigmented hair. The fact: other than the lack of pigment, gray hair is exactly the same type as pigmented hair. Although the gray hair may be resistant, it's not resistant simply because it's gray. It's resistant because the pigmented hair on the same person's head is just as resistant. It's just simply more noticeable visually than the pigmented hair. Myth: the amount of natural curl is always determined by racial background. Here's the fact: anyone of any race or mixed race can have hair from straight to extremely curly, high-textured hair. This is also true within races, that individuals have hair with varying degrees of curl on the head. Myth: hair with a round cross-section is straight, hair with an oval cross-section is wavy, and hair with a flattened cross-section is curly. In fact, generally, cross-sections of the hair are often round. Cross-sections or wavy curly hair tend to be more oval or flattened oval, like we've learned. However, cross-sections can honestly be in almost any shape, and the cross-section does not always relate to the amount of curl or shape of the follicle. Understanding hair loss and treatments. Let's continue. Chapter 11, page 234, Understanding Hair Loss and Treatments. Under normal circumstances, we all lose some hair every day. Normal hair loss is usually the natural result of your anagen, catagen, or telogen phases of the hair growth cycle, and explained earlier in this chapter. So your ACT cycles. The growth cycle provides for continuous growth, fall, and replacement of individual hair strands. A hair that is shed in the telogen phase is replaced by a new hair in the same follicle in the next anagen phase. This is called natural shedding, and it accounts for normal daily hair loss. Please ensure you know this, although some estimates of the rates of hair loss have long been quoted at 100 to 150 hairs per day. Recent measurements indicate the average hair loss is more 35 to 40 hairs per day. The emotional impact of hair loss. Although the medical community does not always recognize Hair loss is a medical condition. The anguish felt by many of those who suffer from abnormal hair loss is very real, and it's really overlooked. Results from the study investigated perceptions of bald and balding men and showed the compound to men. And compared to men who had hair, bald men were perceived as less physically attractive by both sexes, less assertive, less successful, less personally likable, and older for about 5 years. The study of how bald men perceive themselves showed that greater hair loss had more significant impact than moderate hair loss. Men with more severe loss. What happens is they experience significantly more negative social and emotional effects, are more preoccupied with their baldness. Some actually make an effort to conceal or compensate for their hair loss. Abnormal hair loss is not as common in women as it is in men, but it also can be really traumatic and devastating for women who experience. Because the studies indicate women have a greater emotional investment in their appearance. Many women with abnormal hair loss, they feel really anxious, helpless, and not attractive. These may think that these are the only ones that have this problem. They also tend to worry about their hair loss being a symptom of a serious illness and sometimes try and disguise from everyone, even their doctors, and that usually make that mistake. Over 63 million people in the USA suffer from abnormal hair loss. As a professional hairstylist, it's likely that you'll be the first person that the hair loss sufferer will confide in. So it's important that you have a basic understanding, offer various treatment types, and products and services are available to them. Types of abnormal hair loss. Please highlight. Abnormal hair loss is called alopecia. The three most common types of abnormal hair loss are androgenetic alopecia, alopecia areata, and postpartum alopecia. Please continue highlighting. Androgenetic alopecia is also known as androgenetic alopecia is the hair loss that is characterized by miniaturization of your terminal hair that's converted into vellus hair. And you'll when you see a customer, when it's starting to do that, you will notice it when you comb through those strands that there is a varying degree, and you can see that minimization of that hair follicle. Androgenetic alopecia can be seen as early as your teens, and it's usually seen by the age of 40. By age 35, almost 40% of both men and women show some degree of hair loss. In men, androgenetic alopecia is known as male pattern baldness. Usually progresses to the familiar horse-shaped ring fringe of hair that you'll see older men usually wear. In women, it shows up as just a generalized thinning over the entire crown area. Androgenetic alopecia affects millions of men and women in the USA and in the world. Let's move on to alopecia areata. Please highlight. Alopecia areata is an autoimmune disorder that causes the affected hair follicles to be mistakenly attacked by a person's own immune system. And a highlighting. White blood cells stop the hair growth during the anagen phase. It's highly unpredictable skin disease that affects about 5 million people in the USA a year. The hair disorder usually begins with one or more small, round, smooth, bald patches on the scalp and can progress to a total scalp hair loss, known as alopecia totalis. Please highlight. Alopecia totalis, or complete body hair loss, is called alopecia universalis. So please ensure you have those two terms highlighted. So the first one is you'll actually see it just show up in spots, and the other is total hair loss throughout the whole body. Alopecia areata can occur in males and females, all ages, races, ethnic backgrounds, and it often begins in childhood. The scalp usually shows no obvious signs of inflammation, skin disorder, or disease. You can see the figure on 11-13. You are going to come across customers with this. Don't be afraid. and always just make sure that you're making your cut lines and providing with services to help support this. There's quite a few sprays now, scalp sprays that you can put on that will help disguise this also. Please highlight postpartum alopecia. It is a temporary hair loss experienced at the end of pregnancy. End of highlighting. For some women, pregnancy seems to disrupt all natural growth cycle of the hair. There's very little normal hair loss during pregnancy, then all of a sudden, excessive shedding towards the end of it, sometimes up to a year after pregnancy. Although it's usually pretty traumatic to the new mom, the growth cycle generally returns to normal within 1 year after the baby's delivered. So let's talk about treatment. Hair loss treatments. All of the treatments are said to be countering hair loss. There's only 2 products that I spoke about earlier that work. Please highlight minoxidil and Finsidrate. They have been proven to stimulate hair growth and are approved by the FDA for sale. Minoxidil, please highlight, is topical, so it's applied to the surface of the body. It's put on the scalp twice a day and has been proven to stimulate hair growth. It's sold over the counter as a non-prescriptive drug. It's available for men and women and comes in 2 different strengths, a 2% regular strength and a 5% extra strength. It's not known to have any serious side effects. Some well-known products on the market are Nioxin, Rogaine. Each manufacturer you're going to find in the industry really has their own brands with this. Now, your Finsidrate is your oral prescription of medication only for men. Women cannot take this. Although it's more effective and convenient than your topical treatment, the possible side effects are weight gain and loss of sexual function. Women may not use this treatment, and pregnant women, anybody who may think they might become pregnant, are cautioned to never even touch the tablets because of their strong potential for birth defects. These over-the-counter medications slow the rate of hair loss, and in some cases they even stimulate new hair growth. But once you stop using it, the hair loss returns, so it is not a permanent solution. In addition to the treatments described above, there's also several surgical options available to treat alopecia. The hair transplant, it's honestly really common and getting more popular. This process consists of removing small sections of hair, including the follicle, papilla, hair bulb, from an area where there's lots of hair, usually in your back 2 quadrants, and transplanting it into your frontal area, your bald spot. These sections grow normally and they have a new location. Only licensed surgeons can perform this procedure, and they're usually necessary to achieve desired results. It can range from $8,000 to over $20,000. Hairstylists offer a number of non-medical options to counter the hair loss. Some salons specialize in non-surgical hair replacement systems such as wigs, toupees, hair weavings, and hair extensions. With proper training, you can learn how to fit, color, and style wigs and toupees. Hair weaving and hair extensions allow you to enhance a client's natural hair and create a look that boosts self-esteem. You're going to learn more about that in Chapter 19. Moving on to page 237, let's talk about the hair disorders. Because there is quite a few hair disorders, you need to be able to recognize them. And you need to know which ones you can treat and which ones you need to refer to a physician. The following disorders of hair ranges, they range from a commonplace that's not troublesome to far more distressing forms. Please highlight your Candidase. That's your technical term for gray hair. Candidase results in hair losses, natural pigment. And a highlighting. Other than the absence of pigment, gray hair is exactly the same as pigmented hair. There's 2 types of Candidase, congenital and acquired. Your congenital Candidase exists before or at birth. It occurs in albinos who are born without pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes, and individuals sometimes with normal hair. It's like a patchy type of Candidase can develop slowly or rapidly depending on the cause of the condition. Acquired Candidase develops with age and as a result of your genetics. Although genetics are responsible for premature canides, acquired canides may develop due to prolonged anxiety or illness. Your ringed hair. Please highlight. Ringed hair has a variety of canides, so a variety of gray hair, characterized by alternating bands of gray pigment and hair throughout the length of the hair strand. Let's turn to page 238. Hypertrichosis, also known as hydrosis. It's the abnormal growth of hair. Think of the werewolf. It's characterized by the body of growth of terminal hair in the areas of the body that normally grow like vellus hair. Mustaches, light beards on women are example of hypertrichosis. Or the feared werewolf is really just somebody that has hypertrichosis. Treatments of hypertrichosis include electrolysis, photoepilation, laser hair removal, shaving and tweezing, electronic tweezers, depilatories, threading, sugaring, waxing, etc. You can see that all in chapter 22 when we learn about hair removal. Please highlight that hypertrichosis. Please highlight trichopilitosis. It's the technical term for split ends. You can see it on figure 11-4. Hair conditioning treatments will soften and lubricate the dry ends, but it's never going to repair it. So any product that's saying that they're repairing split ends is false. The only way to remove it is by trimming them. Please highlight trichorhexis nodosa. It's the technical term for knotted hair. It's characterized by brittleness and the formation of nodular swellings along the hair shaft. You can see that on figure 11-15. And you can almost see if you move your hand down on the hair shaft on certain hair types, and it has little nodules or knots along the hair shaft. Moving on to monothyrex. It's the technical term for beaded hair. You can see that on figure 11-6. It breaks away easily in between the beads or the nodes. Treatments include hair and scalp conditioning. Your last one is fragileus cranium. Is the technical term for brittle hair. Obviously it's fragile. The hair may split at any part of the hair length. Treatments include hair and scalp conditioning and hair cutting above all. Let's move into recognizing disorders of the scalp on page 238 and 239. The skin is a constant state of renewal. The outer layer of the skin that covers your body constantly and being shed and replaced by the new cells from below. The average person sheds about 9 pounds of dead skin cells a year. Pretty gross, isn't it? The skin cells of a normal healthy scalp fall off naturally as small dry flakes without anybody even noticing. Dandruff can easily be mistaken for a dry scalp because of these symptoms. Both conditions are flaky, an irritated scalp, but there is quite a difference. Dandruff commonly produces an oily scalp, but just the same indicates the scalp is dry with the condition of a dry scalp. The flakes from a dry scalp are much smaller and less noticeable than with dandruff. Dry scalp can be a result from contact dermatitis, a sunburn, extreme age, and is usually made worse by cold or dry climate. Your dandruff on page 239. Really common in the salon, you're going to see a lot of it, but there's a few different forms that you need to know. Please highlight. Pityriasis is the technical term for dandruff, which is characterized by excessive production and accumulation of skin cells, and a highlighting. Instead of the normal one shedding at a time of tiny individual cells, dandruff is shedding of an accumulation of large visible clumps of skin cells. You can see that on figure 11-17. Although the cause of the dandruff has been debated for many years, current research confirms that dandruff is a result of a fungus called Mazzalia. Please highlight is a natural occurring fungus that is present on all human skin and causes symptoms of dandruff when it grows out of control, and a highlighting. Some individuals are more susceptible to the irritating effects of this fungus. Factors such as stress, age, hormones, poor hygiene can cause this fungus to multiply and dandruff symptoms to worsen. There's modern anti-dandruff shampoos that contain high antifungal agents, which is zinc and selenium sulfide, that control the dandruff by suppressing the growth of this fungus. Anti-dandruff shampoos that contain this zinc are available in a variety of formulas for all hair types and are gentle enough to be used every day, and now even on color-treated hair. Frequently used anti-dandruff shampoos is essential for controlling dandruff. And although good personal hygiene and proper cleaning and disinfecting are important, dandruff is not contagious. There are two types of dandruff. Pityriasis capreus simplex, please highlight, is the technical term for your classic dandruff. It's characterized by scalp irritation, large flakes, and an itchy scalp. The scales may attach to the scalp in masses or scatter loosely on the hair, fall into the shoulders, and regular use of an anti-dandruff shampoo and conditioners are your best treatment. Your next one, please highlight, pityriasis steatoides. It's a more severe case of dandruff, caused by an accumulation of greasy and waxy scales mixed with sebum. It actually sticks to the scalp in crusts. Explained in Chapter 8, this is a condition accompanied by redness and inflammation and is called seborrheic dermatitis. It can also be found in the eyebrows and your beard. You should never ever perform a service to anyone who has dandruff, like in this form, as the scalp is irritated and itchy. Anti-dandruff shampoo can be recommended to the client, but anyone with severe conditions must go to a physician. Moving into your fungal infections. Your tinea. Please highlight. Your tinea is a technical term for ringworm. End of highlighting. It's characterized by itching scales and sometimes painful circular lesions. Several patches may be present at one time. Tinea is caused by a fungal organism and is not a parasite as the old-fashioned term ringworm suggests. Tinea infections are named for the part of the location of the body that they infect. So your tinea is your fungus, and then we have different names for the different areas on the body. All forms are contagious and they can easily be transmitted from one person to another. Infected skin scales and hair contain a fungi known to spread the disease. Bathtubs, swimming pools, and unclean personal articles are sources of transmission. Practicing approved cleaning and disinfection procedures will help prevent the spread of this disease in the salon. As we learned in Chapter 5, tinea capitis, sometimes called ringworm of the scalp, is another type of fungal infection characterized by red papules on spots and the opening of the hair follicles, and a highlighting. The patches of the scalp and the hair becomes brittle. Hair often breaks off, leaving only a stump of the hair that can shed from the enlarged open follicle. You can see it on figure 11-18. That's your top left-hand corner. Tinea barbae is a superficial fungal infection caused by a variety of dermophytes and it commonly affects the skin. It's primarily limited to obviously your bearded areas of the face and neck and around the scalp. You see that on figure 11-19. It's really similar to your tinea capitis in appearance, so you should never perform a service on anybody who you think may suspect has it. A client with this condition must go to a physician for medical treatment. Another form of a fungal infection, tinea favosa, so ringworm favosa, is known as characterized by dry, please highlight, sulfur yellow cup-like crusts on the scalp called scutula. Scutula is a distinctive odor. It smells really strongly, and scars from this tinea favosa are bald patches that may be pink or white and shiny. You can see that on figure 11-20. And I actually know of a guy that had it when he was a little tiny kid. He got it from his animal. I think it was his cat or his dog. He ended up getting ringworm from it. And he does have bald patches to this day, and he's in his 40s. Moving on to page 241. Remember, never ever perform a service on anyone who you have a suspicion has a fungal infection. If you're not certain about whether the condition is a fungal infection, be safe and refer your client to a physician. Parasite infections. Scabies is highly contagious skin disease caused by a parasite mite that actually burrows underneath your skin. Blisters and pustules usually form on the scalp from the irritation caused by this parasite. Excessive itching accompanies this condition, and then scratching the infected areas makes the affected area worse. Practicing approved cleaning and disinfecting procedures are very important to prevent the spread of this disease. You can see the figures on 11-21. That's what scaby itching and irritation will look like. Usually the inside of the arm is quite common. You should never perform a service on anyone who has scabies. A client with this condition must go to a physician for medical treatment. Now let's highlight Pedioceus capitis. It's the infestation of the hair and scalp with head lice. Nice. Figures 11-22 to 11-23. You are going to come across this sometime in your life, as these parasites feed on the scalp. It begins to itch, and if the scalp is scratched, it can cause an infection. Head lice are transmitted from one person to another by contact with infested hats, combs, brushes, and other personal articles. This is typically why small elementary schools usually have issues, because there is personal space issues. Their lockers, their coats, etc. are hung quite closely. Head lice is transmitted from one person to another very easily, and you can distinguish the head lice from dandruff flakes by closely looking at the scalp with a magnifying glass, or if you touch and they don't actually flake off. Those nits and the lice actually stick to the scalp and hair shaft. You should never perform a service on anybody who has head lice, and they have to go to a physician or a pharmacist. You will learn with infection practices. If somebody actually enters your facility with head lice, there is a full system that you need to do for cleaning to make sure that you don't spread it. Let's move on to bacterial infections. Bacterial infections of the scalp are caused by two strains of bacteria, known as Staphylococcus and Streptococci. Most common types of Staphylococci infections are furuncles, carbuncles, and moving on to page 242, let's talk about a furuncle. Please highlight. Furuncle is a technical term for a boil. It's an acute, localized bacteria infection of the hair follicle that produces consistent pain and a highlighting. It's limited to a specific area and produces a pustule perforated by a hair. You can see it on figure 11-24A. Now your carbuncle, please highlight, is an inflammation of your sebaceous tissue caused by Staphylococci and a highlighting. It's similar to your furuncle, but it's actually bigger. Moving on, properly practicing state board and provincial board approved cleaning and disinfection procedures will prevent the spread of these infections. You should never perform a service on anyone who has a boil, carbuncle, as a client with any of these conditions must be referred to a physician for medical treatment. So now we've learned about all of the different types of hair and scalp issues. How do we actually perform an analysis to see what we need to do? So learning how to perform a thorough hair and scalp analysis on the bottom page of 242. A successful salon service must begin with the analysis of the condition of the client's scalp and the client's hair type. Knowing the client's scalp condition and the client's hair type allows you to prepare and make decisions about the best results that can be expected from the service. Because different hair types react differently to the same service, it's essential that a thorough analysis must be performed on all salon services. Hair analysis is performed by observation using senses of sight, touch, sound, and smell. The 4 most important factors to consider are texture, density, porosity, and elasticity. Please highlight the 4 most important factors to consider in hair analysis are texture, density, porosity, and elasticity, and a highlighting. Other factors that you should also be aware of are growth patterns and dryness versus oiliness. Please highlight. Hair texture is the thickness of the diameter of the individual hair strand. Hair texture can be classified as coarse, medium, and fine. You can see them on your figures 11-25, 11-26, and 11-27. It's often known as you can have a lot of hair with fine texture, or you can have a lot of hair with coarse texture. So the hair texture of the thickness of diameter, please highlight, is the individual hair strand. Hair texture can be classified, like I said earlier, of coarse, medium, and fine, and can vary from strand to strand on the same person's head. And a highlighting. It's not uncommon for the hair from different areas of the head to have different textures. Hair on the nape, the back of the neck, crown, temples, and front hairline of the same person can usually have different textures. Coarse hair texture has the largest diameter. It's stronger than fine hair for the same reason that a thick rope is stronger than a thin rope. It's often more resistant to processing, colors, and chemical services than medium or fine hair, and it usually requires more processing when you're applying products. Medium hair texture is the most common texture, and it's the standard go-to when other hair is compared. Medium hair does not pose any special problems or concerns. Your fine hair is the smallest diameter and the most fragile, easier to process, and is more susceptible to the damage from chemical service than a coarser medium hair. With the hair cuticle analysis, hair texture can be determined by feeling it with a single strand between your fingers. You take an individual strand from 4 different areas of the head, your front hairline, temple, crown, and nape, and hold each strand securely and feel between your thumb and forefinger. With a little practice, you're going to be able to feel the difference between coarse, medium, and fine diameters. We'll be doing this activity in class. Let's move on to page 244. Density. Hair density, please highlight. It measures the number of individual hair strands on 1 square inch, so 2.5 square centimeters of the scalp. It indicates how many hairs there are on one person's head. Hair density can be classified as low, medium, or high, also known as thin, medium, or thick. Hair density is different from hair texture, as individuals with the same hair texture can have different densities. You can see on table 11-4, I want you to highlight and know the average number of hairs on the head. Your blonde hair color will actually have a higher number of hairs on the head, typically at 140,000, where your brown is going to have 110,000, your black 108,000, and your red 80,000. Some individuals have coarse hair texture with a larger diameter, but a really low density, like I said earlier. Others have a fine texture, so each hair has a small diameter, but the high hair density, so a lot of hairs on the head. The average hair density is about 2,200 hairs per square inch. I want you to please highlight that. The average hair density is about 2,200 hairs per square inch. Hair with high density, end of highlighting. Hair with high density, thick or dense hair, has more hair per square inch than hair with low density, with fewer hairs per square inch. The average head of the hair contains about 100,000 individual hair strands. The number of hairs on the head generally varies from the color of the hair. Blondes usually have the highest density, with people with red hair tend to have the lowest. You can see table 11-4, like we said earlier, hair density via hair color. Let's move on to hair porosity. Please highlight. Hair porosity is the ability for hair to absorb moisture. And a highlighting. The degree of porosity is directly related to the condition of that cuticle layer that you learned about earlier. Healthy hair with compact cuticle layers is naturally resistant to being penetrated by moisture and is referred to as hydrophobic. So porous hair has raised a cuticle layer that easily absorbs into moisture, and it's called hydrophilic. The hair with average porosity is considered to be normal. You can see that on figure 11-29. Chemical services performed on this hair type process as is expected, typical by manufacturer's direction. Please highlight, hair with low porosity is considered to be resistant. Chemical services performed on hair with low porosity require more of an alkaline solution than those with high porosity. End of highlighting. Alkaline solutions raise that cuticle up and permit uniform saturation and processing on the resistant hair into the cortex. Please highlight, hair with high porosity is considered to be overly porous on hair, and it is often a result of overprocessing. You can see that on figure 11-31. So you can see the differences of the healthy, which is 11-29, to 11-31 where it's overprocessed. So say you lightened it, bleached it would be your common term for it, and or just too much thermal damage to it. You can see how your cuticle layers, they aren't tight anymore like shingles on a roof. They're elevated and they're more exposed. Overly porous hair is damaged, fragile, and brittle. Chemical services performed on overly porous hair require a less alkaline solution, so a lower pH, to prevent additional overprocessing and damage. The texture hair can be an indication of its porosity, but it's only really a general rule of thumb. Different degrees of porosity can be found in different hair textures. Although coarse hair normally has a low porosity, it's resistant to the chemical services, and in some cases, coarse hair will have high porosity, perhaps as a result from previous chemical services. You can check porosity on dry hair by taking a strand of several hairs from 4 different areas of the head: your front hairline, temple, crown, and nape. Hold the strand securely with one hand while sliding the thumb and forefinger with the other from the end to the scalp, so moving from the bottom to the top. If the hair feels smooth, the cuticle is compact, dense, and hard. It's considered resistant. If you can feel a small roughness, it's considered porous. If the hair feels super rough and breaks, it's considered highly porous and has probably been overprocessed. You can see how to physically do that on your figures 11-32 and 11-33. Moving on to our last part is your hair elasticity. Please highlight, hair elasticity is the ability of the hair to stretch and return to its normal length without breaking. And a highlighting. Hair elasticity in its indication of strength with the side bonds will hold the hair's natural fibers in place. Wet hair with the same normal elasticity will stretch up to 50% of its normal length and return to the same length without breaking. Dry hair stretches about 20% of its length. Please star and know that wet hair will stretch to 50% of its original length, and know that dry hair stretches to 20%. Hair with low elasticity is brittle and breaks easily. It may not be able to hold the curl from wet setting, thermal styling, or permanent waving. Hair with low elasticity is a result of weak side bonds that usually result from overprocessing. Chemical services performed on the hair with low elasticity require a milder solution with a lower pH level to minimize further damage and prevent additional overprocessing. Check elasticity on wet hair by taking an individual strand from 4 different areas of the head: front hairline, temple, crown, and nape. Hold the single strand of wet hair securely and try and pull it apart. Moving on to page 246. This is your last portion of your hair and scalp. Your hair growth patterns. Hair growth patterns is important to identify and consider, especially when preparing the shape and style of the hair. During your hair analysis, you should identify all growth patterns and take them into consideration when creating your overall look, haircut, or hairstyle that the client wants to achieve. Hair follicles that grow out of the head at a perpendicular 90-degree angle or in the straight direction from the head may cause the following growth patterns as a result. Please highlight a hair stream. Is a hair flowing in the same direction resulting from follicles sloping in the same direction? Two hair streams flowing in opposite directions of the form will have a natural part. Does that make sense? It's moving, everything moving in the same direction will allow it to lay, but if your hair is streaming in different directions, it will cause the hair to part. Please highlight a whorl. This occurs when hair leaves the follicles at an angle of the head. The hair will lie in a particular direction, forming patterns or streams of the head. And a highlighting. Often streams will spiral outwards from the central point. Please highlight. They usually run in a clockwise direction, and sometimes more than one whorl can be seen on certain individuals. You can see below on figure 11-34 the whorl on the head. Please know your whorl for your exam. A cowlick. This is now known for a particular pattern of hair stream on the forehead. Cowlicks are usually more noticeable on front hairlines in people with short, thick hair, but they can be located anywhere on the head. You can see a great example of that on figure 11-35. Dry hair and scalp. Dry hair and scalp can be caused by inactive sebaceous glands. These conditions are aggravated by excessive shampooing or by a dry climate. The lack of natural oils, so your sebum, leads to the hair that appears dull, dry, and lifeless. Dry hair and scalp should be treated with products that contain moisturizers and emollients. People with dry hair and scalp should avoid frequent shampooing along with the use of strong soaps, detergents, or products with high alcohol content because these products could aggravate the existing conditions. Dry hair should never be confused with overly porous hair that's been damaged by thermal styling, chemical services, or environmental conditions. Your oily hair and scalp. Oily hair and scalp is characterized by a greasy buildup on the scalp and an oily coating on the hair, caused by improper shampooing or overactive sebaceous glands. Oily hair on the scalp can be treated by properly washing with normalizing shampoo, a well-balanced diet, exercise, and regular shampooing. And again, good personal hygiene to control your oily scalp. Healthy hair, happy clients. As you further advance, you're going to learn about the structure of the hair and how to keep it healthy. The more you understand how salon services affect different hair types. The key is to be consistent in results and with your service, to have happy clients who recommend you to all of their friends. What I want you to do at the end of this chapter is complete your review questions on page 248. I want you to complete your study guide to reinforce all the learning in this, as well as your exam prep. Go through your flashcards, make sure that you print them off and do a great job reviewing your flashcards. We'll also have an assignment with this chapter, and in addition, I will finish doing all of our review in class. I'm really excited to see your guys' assignments and looking forward to the next chapter.